أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And I congratulate everyone on this auspicious occasion, which is the night of Eid al-Ghadir. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so we are now in the final session of the issue of migration, and we're up to session number 5. And we were just finishing off with Sayyid al-Sistani and his comments that he has in the book that he had for those in the West, for Muslims in the West. This book here that that I've taken this quote from, or rather that I'm going to be talking about now, is from another book. It's called The Comprehensive Explanations of Matters in Islamic Laws. Now, it's a Farsi book, توضيح المسائل جامع. Okay, it's volume 1. On page 625. So right towards the end of the first volume in this Farsi version of his book, he lists, when he's talking about enjoining good and forbidding evil. Okay, this nahyu anil munkar, this forbidding evil, and amrul bil ma'ruf, this enjoining good. This is the topic that he's talking about. And in that topic, he lists 58 matters. 58 matters in which he lists as examples in which one should enjoin good and forbid evil. And these examples include shirk, so polytheism, turning your back and running away from the battlefield, abortion, not paying your religious taxes like your khums and zakat, gambling, the issue of magic, theft, backbiting, and at-ta'arrub ba'd al-hijra. So obviously it's one of those things that are very important and is considered to be an issue that Islamically one needs to discuss amongst each other and point out to each other the importance of this issue, just as you would, for example, with regards to gambling or drinking or shirk or not paying your khums, any of those issues. And inshallah, during the last 5 sessions, this is actually what we've been doing. We have been talking about this issue of migration, this issue of hijrah, this issue of at-ta'arrub. So inshallah, we are acting upon the advice of Sayyid al-Sistani. Okay, so having finished some of the discussing some of the scholars, just a quick map as to where we've gone so far. So what have we covered so far? So far, we have covered the introduction, the definitions. Then we've spoken about some of the ayat in the Holy Quran, and there are plenty, right? I've just mentioned a few of them. Even if you go, for example, if you have the Quran in front of you, or maybe after the session, go to page 34 as an example, and read from top to the bottom, just that page. You'll see at the top that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the kuffar and how they are going to try to change you, right? So if you're living amongst kuffar, if you're living amongst non-believers and faithless people, they're going to try to change you. And then as you go down further, he talks about hijrah on that page. And then further down, he talks about the يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you about al-khamr and al-maysir, which is gambling, right? So al-khamr is alcohol and maysir is gambling. And so, you know, you get these questions quite often from people who are living in the West. You know, is a little bit of alcohol okay? Can we drink this kind of alcohol? Is that okay? What is it, najis? Is it not? What about this kind of, you know, raffles and draws? Is it like gambling? Can we do this kind of gambling? And so, yes, أَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. So if you read that whole page with the context of migration in your head, page 34 of the Holy Quran, you might, you know, pick up a few points there. Anyway, what we're up to now is the issue of fallacies. Some of the fallacies that we might have to help sort of justify. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this slide and I'm going to go to the next slide first, because this will help us understand why I'm even talking about fallacies. But I don't want to spend too much time on this. Cognitive dissonance, right? There's a few psychological terms that we need to learn. One of them is cognitive dissonance. There's another one called cognitive bias, right? Cognitive bias, just very basically, is when you look for a result that you want. So, for example, you know, I don't know, I want this kind of drink to be halal for me. Why? Because I like it. Okay, right. So I'm going to go and ask a particular sheikh that I know he's very easy. That's kind of looking, that's, you know, directing your question to someone that you know that you're going to get the question to. That's not cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is when you're actually trying to find the truth, but you still have the answer in your mind that you would like. And you think you're looking or you're being objective about it, but your cognitive bias takes you towards the answer that you're actually wanting to hear or see. That's cognitive bias. What's cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is when, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Cognitive dissonance is a situation where you've lived your life believing in something, right? You've lived your life believing, for example, that, as a very basic example, okay, that smoking is healthy. And that's what they used to promote smoking as being healthy, right? So this is one of those really obvious issues that I'm giving you as an example. We now know that smoking is not healthy, but let's say that we lived in the past. We believed that smoking is healthy, that doctors recommended it, they were advertising it, there were court cases where doctors stood up and said that there is absolutely no evidence to say that smoking is harmful to you or your body or your lungs or to your age or anything like that. Under oath. So there's every reason to believe them and every reason to suggest that the experts are saying that smoking is healthy. Fantastic. Okay. Years go on and you've been smoking for a very long time. And then suddenly something hits you and the narrative changes and everybody's now saying that smoking causes cancer, smoking kills. In fact, you buy a box of smokes and there's a picture of eyeballs sticking out of heads and hearts full of I don't know, that slime, so the blood isn't flowing as well, brain cancers, lung cancers, and all these ugly pictures. And so without question, you see the evidence that smoking is actually harmful. Now you're in a state of cognitive dissonance. You've believed for a very long time that smoking was okay, it was healthy, it was fine. You believed in something, whatever it may be. This is just an example. You believed in something and it was fine. Some information comes to you and it says, no, what you believe in is actually wrong. This state of cognitive dissonance is causing you physical pain. You actually feel it. You start to feel this physical, emotional pain. You get stressed and anxiety, and now you're going to have to deal with it. If you don't deal with it, you're going to get sick because of the cognitive dissonance, this sort of battle that's going on in your mind. How do you deal with it is as follows. There are 4 ways in summary. Okay. The first one is you're going to deny the incoming new information. You're going to say, look, I don't believe that this information is right. There's this, you know, I don't know, conspiracy theory against the cigarette companies and they want to shut them down. It's just not true, okay? I've been smoking for 30 years. I've been smoking for 40 years. In fact, Sayyid Khoi, rahmatullah alayhi, smoked all his life and look how long he lived, okay? This information is not correct. I'm denying it, okay? This does not apply to our modern times is one of the statements that we hear about jurisprudential issues. Look, you know, this jurisprudential issue was like for 1,400 years ago. It's times have changed now. So we're going to deny this law and we're going to say it's okay now. Or it doesn't apply to me, right? The second way is to change one's course of action to suit the new information, right? So you're going to change the way that you deal with things so that you can suit this new piece of information. So what you might want to do, for example, if you're going to continue to smoke, you might say, look, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, okay? I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, and therefore I'm going to compensate for what I'm going to do. Okay, I realize that smoking is bad, but I enjoy it so much, I'm going to get fit and healthy some other way. The other way is to add a new thought to justify an ongoing action. You add something to it, right? It could be whatever it may be, like whatever it is, to try to either compensate or try to downgrade the new fact that you've received, right? It's a very fine line to do that. The final one is to trivialize it altogether, just to say, look, whatever. All right, I'm not even gonna bother. And these 4 things are the ways that you deal with cognitive dissonance. So why did I mention cognitive dissonance? Is because after hearing this information, some of us might feel that, and some of us might feel that, okay, what do I do now? You know, I've got family, I've got studies, I've got work, I've got etc., etc. It's very important for us to understand that not every one of us needs to take action straight away. Like we said at the start, this is to arm ourselves with this information, lest we fall under a threat, or that we find an opportunity, or we see ourselves that our excuse for migration has been lifted, for example. So there might be an opportunity to move to a more Islamic country, and you say, oh, what should I do now? Well, you've got that background information. When I migrated, just as on a personal level, my uncle was very concerned about it. He's living in Iran as well. And he was very concerned about it. And he went to ask a very trusted sheikh as to what to do. And he actually wanted a khira, like a khira, istikhara from the Holy Quran. So they would open the book, for example, and they would see the ayah and say, okay, this is a good action, this is a bad action, depending on what the question was and what the intention is. Now, istikharas, you should not take istikhara on something that you have not, that you're not you're in 2 minds about. Istikhara is for something when you're like mutahayyir, like you don't know where to turn. You've got 2, 3, 4 options, and really you do not know what to do. It's not for a situation where you'd say, look, I'd really like to do this. I know it's really good for me. I'm going to take istikhara anyway. No. That's not what an istikhara is for. An istikhara is for that time in which you really don't know where to turn your head in terms of taking a decision, which option to take. So the sheikh, in reply, said, I'm not going to take an istikhara. There is no need to take an istikhara. This person that's wanting to move is doing a good thing. There's just no need. Get him to come. Okay, so it's important to know that, number 1, arm yourself with information. Number 2, nobody has to do anything immediately. Number 3, keep it in mind for when there is an opportunity or a threat or a situation in which you find yourself, you have to make that decision. And then you know what to do. And number 4, keep it in mind for the future. Now, fallacies. Raising children is better in the West. Why? Well, look at so-and-so. Look at him and how well he recites the Holy Quran. Look at her and how beautiful her hijab is. Look at so-and-so and look at how they pray and how they fast and how they know the ahkam. All of that is fine. All of that is fine. But we need to look at the bigger picture, right? What is the bigger picture when we're talking about the chances and the probabilities? If you put, for example, a green drop in an orange pool, what are the chances of that green drop continuing to remain green? Right? Eventually it will disperse into the orange and it will become orange in of itself. There are exceptions. You will find the odd molecule here and there if you pay very close attention where there's green in it. That's just an example that I've made up just now, right? It's not a usually very good example, but the point is this. There are always exceptions to the rule. Here's another example that I've just come to mind. The yin and yang, right? You've got the black and the white, and then you've got a black dot in the white section and a white dot in the black section. That's to tell us that there's exceptions to the rules. You might be able to raise your child very well in the West, right? However, my question is, if you were able to raise your child in a Western, non-Islamic, polytheistic, non-religious, for example, country or region, if you were able to raise your child in that location so well, imagine how well you could have raised them in an Islamic environment. Now they're going to argue and say, well, hang on a minute. Look at so and so, and they're living in Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Bahrain, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, I don't know where, it doesn't matter, and in an Islamic country. Look at them. Look at the facade they're doing. Look at the waste of time they're doing. They're even drinking alcohol. They're not fasting. They don't pray. And there are people like this. I see them here in Tehran, for example, in Iran. Even in Qom, unfortunately, it's spread to here. I see people like this. Yes, I understand that. But we're talking about a game of probabilities, right? There's no denying that there is a problem in every location, wherever you go. There is no utopia. There is no geographical location where you can say that this is perfection, right? What we want to do is, however, create or go to that environment that is as close as possible to where we want them to go. In Tafsir al-Zamakhshari, in Al-Kashaf, volume 2, page 103, there's this quote, you see a child born into Islam and he's been raised amongst Muslims, but sells his faith for so-and-so, right? For such and such. So you see this Muslim born amongst Muslims in an Islamic environment, but they sell their soul for very cheap. And then you see those infidels, those non-believers, right? Raised in infidelity, sacrificing themselves for Allah Almighty. What this quote is talking about are the magicians of Pharaoh, in the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. When the magicians saw the truth, they were infidels all their life. They lived amongst infidels. There was no question about it. There was no drop of iman. But when they saw the truth, at least what they did was that they faced it and admitted it and dropped down in prostration, believing in the Lord of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Right? And this is how we should be, right? This is how we should be. When mistakes are pointed out to us, this is hard to do. But when mistakes are pointed out to us, we should be able to, if we had an ounce of faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an ounce of honesty, an ounce of truth, an ounce of sincerity, we should be able to say, listen, I made a mistake. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Move on. You've made a mistake. Admit it. Move on. These magicians did that. They dropped immediately, right? So it's a game of probabilities as to where you raise your child. And you want to be really careful in choosing that location, because it is hard for faith to not be affected. You've got philosophies, you've got the Western philosophy as opposed to the Islamic philosophy. You've got the Western faith, the religions as opposed to the Islamic religions. You've got the non-religious ideologies that are spreading around in Western countries and getting into Islamic countries as well, right? So we have to be careful. Things like I don't know, this LGBTQ issue that's popping up everywhere, and now everybody is like, you have to swear an oath to them or something like that. I don't know, it's become really large, this movement. So it's hard to raise your child in that, especially if you're sending them to school. And I'm sure that you guys and you brothers and sisters have more experience now than I do. I've been through school a long time ago. So the Muslim in the West will end up usually living a double life, one with their family and with their Islamic friends, and then one in the community with their school friends, with their outings, with their other friends. It's double lives that can be lived. Sorry. There's issues of pornography and the age in which they see pornography, alcohol and the availability of it, and the other drugs, girlfriend, boyfriends, food being halal or not. All these others. Youth are sometimes concerned about their parents finding out about what they're doing rather than about their hereafter. The other fallacy is, brothers and sisters, I've lived here for so long. You know what? I was even born here. These things that you're talking about that are sins, like, you know, if I see something, I get aroused, or if you see a movie, it's that you might think is bad, to me, it's fine, man. It's like I don't get affected. I don't get aroused. Um, it's not a problem. I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink but you know, I see movies. No, it's not a problem. I'm used to it. This I'm used to it is in itself a problem. In itself is a significant calamity. Why? Because we've normalized this. And guess what Shaitan does? Guess what Satan does? This is his job. Why do you think in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خَطَوَاتُ الشَّيْطَانِ, and do not follow the steps of Shaitan, la'natullah alayh. It's not because Shaitan is going to, and I think I've said this before, he's not going to come to you and say, go kill someone, go watch, you know, something really bad, go drink alcohol, no, he knows you're a believer and you're not going to do that. He's going to open doors for you, doors that you would never have imagined, that would lead to another door, that leads to another door, that leads to another door, that leads to so and so. So this normalizing of issues is in itself a calamity. You saying that, me saying that, look, I'm vaccinated against this kind of thing. I'm okay. I don't get aroused. It's fine. It's only a little bit of riba. It's only a bit of a little bit of alcohol. It's only a little bit of this and that. I'm just chit-chatting to my, you know, friends. They happen to be girls. It doesn't make a difference. Or they happen to be boys. It doesn't make a difference to me. No. All of that is normalizing sin, and the slippery slope is counted as the steps of Shaitan. And by the way, it's not necessarily us that's the problem. It's the second and the third and the fourth generations that come after that can be problematic, especially, brothers and sisters, pay attention to this, especially when it is the elders that are running the Islamic centers. And you know what the elders do? And I've seen this, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe not, I don't know. But what the elders do is they'll run an Islamic center in their own language, in Urdu, in Farsi, in Arabic, in anything except English. Bro, I'm an English, I was born here, I know nothing but English. Okay, so I know how to speak a little bit of Urdu or a little bit of Arabic, but really, I don't understand what you're saying when I'm sitting in a majlis for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Muharram is coming up. Which one am I going to go to? Oh, well, there's only, for example, Farsi ones. I'm not going to learn anything. And so this next generation actually ends up getting lost. And that's not their fault. That's the fault of the elders. The elders need to be aware. If you're going to stay in the West and you're going to keep your children there, you better keep your children, hold on to them as tight as possible, and provide for them in their language, in the language that they understand, not in the language that makes me, the older guy, happy. And you know, I went to a Muharram Majlis, bro. I'm you know, preaching to the converted, so to speak. Okay, so we spoke about being accustomed. Oh, the question of who will guide the West, I think we've kind of covered that already. We've talked about categorizing the people and who it is that needs to go or should go or recommended to go, rather. Out of all these, the best word is recommended to go to the you know, other side of the world, to the non-Islamic world. Mustahab, to fulfill the need to guide them. There are people who cannot migrate. They are obligated to learn their religion and spread it. There are people who can protect their religion. They can go as istihbab. They can go and propagate their religion. There are people who, for example, who cannot. Okay, so they should not. Okay, so these are the conditions that we spoke about. And the final thing is, well, it's just too hard. Well, in answer to that, we need to go back and look at the ayat of the Quran and the rewards of migrating. the rewards of doing so with the correct intention, the punishment of not doing so while being able to do so, because the angels will ask you. They'll not only ask you when you go down to the grave, and it is inevitable that we all go down to the grave, right? They will ask you, who is your Lord? Who is your prophet? Who is your Imam? What is your book, right? They'll ask you all these questions. They may even ask you, what were you doing? What's the answer that you're going to give? I was one of the abased, one of the mustala'afin. They might answer and come back to you because they know, right? They know the truth behind the answer that you're given. They may say to you, was not Allah's earth wide enough? So you need to be able to answer that question. And also, Imam Ali alayhi salam migrated a number of times. And Muharram is coming up. Imam Hussein migrated a number of times. Just think about this during this Muharram that's coming up. And when you hear the stories through the 10 nights, where did he come from? When he went to Mecca to perform his pilgrimage, leaving it, before he finishes his pilgrimage, he left to go to Kufa, knowing that they were after him, right? They were after him in Mecca. And had he stayed, there would have been bloodshed in Mecca, right? And he migrated and he left. He didn't even, usually when you migrate, you pack your stuff, right? You pack your stuff so you can go to the next place. He didn't even go back to his place. This is how light one should be. This is how easy one should be. When it's time to migrate, just drop everything and go. He left. He left Mecca, he left Hajj. It was his duty. It was his obligation at that point in time. Remember the question that we were asking at the very start? What is my obligation at this point in time? At that point in time, Imam Hussein alayhi salam's obligation was to go to Kufa. Drop it, go. Mustaqim, straight there. Don't even think about it. That's my obligation now. Bro, my laptop, my mobile phone, my bags, my sofas, I gotta sell cars, houses. Don't worry about it, go for it. Okay, so we've done cognitive dissonance and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we've come to the end of the discussion on the issue of migration. Just as a snapshot, there's more information in the digital book, in the PDF, if you've downloaded it, inshallah. If you haven't, please do, or share it amongst yourself. It's free. But this is really the summary of what it is that we needed to present it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So if you have any questions, I'm available. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.